Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Learning Information Technology with Teacher Stone. I ask that you subscribe to my channel and that you tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe also. Remember to turn on your notification bell so that you will know when a new video has been uploaded. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at the count function and its variations. The count function returns the number of cells that contain a value or formula in a cell range. The CountA function returns the number of cells in a cell range that contains data. The Countblank function returns the number of cells that are unoccupied. And the Countif function returns the number of cells in a cell range that contain a value that meets a condition. Now, I don't just want to tell you about it, I actually want to show you. So let's go. So I've gone ahead and put together some data that we can use for our count functions. I have name, and I have some subjects here: mathematics, English, visual art, and science. Now the values here represents the score that each individual got for the respective subjects. Let us begin with our count function. This function will return the number of cells in a range that contains a value. So we want to find out in column B the number of cells that contain a value. Let's go. Every function begins with an equal sign, so we're going to put our equal there. And then we're going to put our command, which is count. Then I'm going to open my bracket and I'm going to select the range. Remember, we said that we wanted it for column B. So the range is B1 to B6. And we're going to close our bracket there. So this function should count the number of cells in this range that has a value or a formula. So we're going to go ahead and press enter. The function returned a value of 5. So it is telling us that in the range B1 to B6, there are 5 cells that contains value. In our range, we actually have 6 cells. However, the first cell contains the label, and the label is not counted when using this particular function. So let's look at the function again. So it's equal count, and then we open our bracket and we put our range and we close our bracket and we press enter, and we get the number of cells that contains a value. Now, let us move to our Countblank function. And we're going to do that for visual art. So we're going to count the number of cells that are unoccupied in this column. So as usual, we put our equal sign because every function begins with an equal sign. And then we're going to put our command, which is Countblank. We're going to open our bracket and we're going to put the range, and we're doing it for column D. So the range is D1 to D6. We're going to close our bracket. Now, if we look in this range that is highlighted, we realize that there is only one cell unoccupied. So this function should return a value of 1. Let's press enter and see what happens. There you go. This function, the Countblank function, has counted the number of cells in the range that are unoccupied, and that is 1. So we're going to go to the count all, and we want to know in column E the number of cells that contain data. So as usual, we begin with our equal sign, and our command is CountA. We're going to open our bracket and select our range, which goes from E1 to E6. Close our bracket. So looking at the range of data, we see that there are no empty cells. So let's press enter and see what value is returned. The value of 6 is returned. So there is data in cell E1, also in E2, E3, E4, E5, and E6. So in effect, there are 6 cells that contain data. So the CountA function counts all the cells that are occupied with data. Let's move to our Countif function. So we want this function to check column C, which contains the scores for English, and to see if there are any scores that are greater than 50. So we begin with our equal sign, equal, and our command, which is countif. We're going to open our bracket and we're going to select our range, which is C1 to C6. We're going to put a comma, and then we're going to use our quotation marks, and we want to know if there's any score there. We want to know the number of scores that are greater than 60. So we put our greater than sign, and then we put the value that we want to compare it to, and we're going to put our quotation marks and close our bracket. Our function has returned the value of 2. So let us examine it manually. So in this column, we have the data for English. There's a score of 40. There's a blank cell. There's a score of 78. There's a score of 95, and there's a score of 60. Let's look back at our function. Our function wanted to find out the number of cells that contained a value that was greater than 60. If we look back in our range here, we will see that there are indeed 2 values that are greater than 60. There is 78 and there's 95. So our function did indeed return the correct value. So in summarizing, we have looked at 4 types of count function. The count function counts the number of cells that meets the command that we're using. So the count function counts all the cells that contains only values or formulas. The Countblank function counts the number of cells that are unoccupied. That means that there's no data in those cells. The CountA function counts all the cells in the range that contains data. That includes values, formulas, and labels. And our Countif function returns the number of cells in a range that contains a value that meets a particular condition. I hope I helped you to learn something new today. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching this video. See you next time.